Well, Sir David, thanks very much for talking to us. And I want you to tell me about your concerns for the deep ocean floor. And it's, I suppose, a little bit overlooked in terms of our concerns about the oceans, isn't it?
The world has become very anxious to get hold of rare metals, which till now have been found in places in Africa particularly, which we use in many of the modern electronic apparatus, particularly batteries. And so there has been a big search put on. And human beings, being the sort of people they are, they look everywhere. And someone says, what about the deep sea? Is there stuff there? And there's certain indications that there could be. What we are asking is that we should not go in and trash an area of the globe about which we know hardly anything until we've done the proper research. In short, we want a moratorium against action of industrializing and mining the deep sea. We've got to recognize that actually the deep sea is largely unexplored, but what we do know and what the research that we're just publishing now illustrates is that it is absolutely crucial, the deep sea, in many ways which we don't fully understand yet. There are ecosystems there which are very important for the health of the sea in general. And so we are faced with the prospect of big industry going in and churning up the bottom of the ocean. What we do know, and what this report illustrates, is that this produces a great plume of mud and deposits which can be scattered far from the depths of the ocean into all parts of the ocean, which could be very, very destructive.
Presumably there are still undiscovered species down there, for a start.
Oh yes, and although it might be interesting to biologists that there should be unknown species, that is not the only issue. The issue is much more about the whole health of the oceans. We don't yet know enough about the part which the deep sea plays in the health of the oceans. So this report says, which goes into the detail of the possible consequences of this, is whatever you do, please do the science before you go in and destroy. Because that's what it is. Mining is a polite word. And mining also means destruction, and destruction of an ecosystem of which we know pathetically little.
On this issue at the moment of coronavirus, now I know you've talked in the past, talked actually quite recently about overpopulation, the amount of people on the planet and the effect that is in particular having on other species. Could this be another dimension of that, of people living cheek by jowl and then the ability of viruses to pass through quite easily?
The Black Death, when was that, 14th century, something like that?
Yeah, not so many people around
The
then.
Black Death killed thousands of people, and the size of the world population, or indeed the population of this country or Europe, was tiny compared with what it is now. So epidemics can go around the world, and have gone around the world in the past. I would like to say, whoa, whoa, it's all our fault, because that's a kind of fashionable thing to say, that we're overpopulated now. But it just doesn't, that argument doesn't hold water. There has been lots of other epidemics, swine flu, SARS, yep. And so on. And it goes right back into the pestilence and the Black Death. So I can't really say that what we're going through now is a consequence of overpopulation.
And your hopes for COP26 in Glasgow, of course, in the United Kingdom, the global focus on our role in this country, on advancing the battle against climate change. Do you have high hopes for that, or could it just turn out to be another talking shop?
I have desperate hopes for that. We've done the talking. The really productive piece of talking that went on was in Paris 7 years ago, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And what was decided then, and the whole meeting agreed upon, was what should be done. What COP coming up in Glasgow is going to have to say is how, where is the money, who's going to deal with it? It's going to deal with nuts and bolts, with practical politics. We know where we've got to go, we know what the dangers are, we know how to fix them, but now we've got to do it. And so the sweet talk that is easy enough to indulge in is not enough anymore. Now is the hard talk. So it's going to be hard and tough. But it carries the hopes of the world with it. So, and we have a big responsibility over it. We can influence the way it goes. We're the hosts. The trouble is, things like coronavirus and other things come along that blow you off course, but one hopes that one keeps an eye on the ball when it comes to this one.
You know, you sound an awful lot like Greta Thunberg there. Your generations, with the greatest respect, generations apart. But I mean, is it her and her generation, people like her, who are going to hold feet to the fire to make sure there's follow through from things like COP26?
The world we're talking about belongs to people who are at the moment young, and they don't have a vote. They have no way of expressing themselves. And so you can't cut out the political process, but what young people can do is to convince the politicians that they mean it. And unless there's things happening that they're given the support, they won't get the vote of the young people when it comes. So I welcome the fact that young people are explicit and clear about what they want to happen. And because it's tomorrow's problem, but they are tomorrow.
But there is some criticism of her in particular and her interpretation of the pure science. Is it your view that, yes, of course the science is fundamentally important, but the passion is what you actually need?
My reading of Greta Thunberg is that she is very respectful for the science. And she says in a modest way, I'm not a scientist. I've not studied the upper atmosphere of the past 30 years, but I know people who have, and I know what they say, and the rest of the world ought to take notice. That's all she's asking.
And that's, I think, how you've always conducted your career, is it not, Sir David?
Yes, well, I mean, I'm ignorant of the science of the upper atmosphere. I don't pretend to be. I might know rather more about chimpanzees and pangolins.
Sir David Attenborough, great to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.